Welcome back to Beyond the Cage, guys. My name is Gabriel Benchamal, and we have just had a crazy UFC 294 card this past weekend. And to be fair, it's been one of the more unpredictable events we've had this year so far. So let's not waste any time and get into it right away. Before we talk about all that insanity with the main and co-main event, we gotta talk about the rest of the card. The card overall was pretty weird if I'm being honest. Whoever the doctor was in Abu Dhabi was pretty inexperienced, because we had two pretty interesting doctor stoppages that no one really saw coming. The first one is when Victor Henry's Kiwis got abused by Farid Basharat. Let's watch this interaction.
In my balls?
No, it wasn't your ball. You didn't take your ball.
Oh no, come on, man. Balls.
So the doctor has the audacity to say that Victor Henry didn't get kicked in the biscuits while he's wincing in pain? Come on, you're a guy. You know how much that hurts, and people don't really fake that kind of stuff. And then his coach tweeted later that his balls were the size of a Satsuma mandarin. Then you had another case where Johnny Walker got hit with an illegal lead by Magomed Ankalaev. And then the doctor asked him, "Where are we?" He responds with the desert, which, to be fair, he's not wrong. But only a minute and a half after Johnny Walker is starting to recover, he waves off the fight. You have 5 minutes to recover for a reason. And then we almost have a repeat of Logan Paul versus Dylan Dennis with an entire cage brawl. Luckily, Dana White diffused the situation. But if we look at more positive portions of the card, we saw Shara Bullet's UFC debut, and he looked really good on the feet. But on the ground, he couldn't really wrestle. He's Dagestani. That's what you're supposed to be known for, my guy. Then we had Muhammad Makhachev and Tim Elliott show off some amazing grappling. But eventually, Makhachev got the arm triangle in round 3 and was able to move up in the rankings. And then we had Saeed Nurmagomedov and Ikram Aliskerov getting quick first round finishes. But let's be real, all week, everyone's eyes were on the main and co-main event. So it was pretty clear in the octagon that Khamzat respected Kamaru Usman a lot. He was a lot less aggressive and crazy, especially in that second and third round where he took his time with everything. But in that first round, he immediately shot for the takedown like he's done in so many fights. And surprisingly, Khamzat got Usman down multiple cimes, to the point where he almost edged up a full rear naked choke. But it was revealed after the fight that Khamzat apparently broke his right hand. And that's why we saw a more passive Khamzat in rounds 2 and 3. And in the second round, it was pretty quiet with a few blitzes, but nothing really to show for it. Round 3 was pretty interesting because the scorecards could have been dead even, because you never know with these judges, man. When I was watching the fight, I don't know if they would have given that round a 10-8 with all that control time and not a lot of damage. I personally thought it was a 10-8, but when they show people scorecards on Twitter, people were saying 10-9, 10-8. It was very split. You had two 29-27s in favor of Khamzat, and then you had a 28-28. Someone thought Usman won round 3. I personally found that giving that last round to Khamzat was fair, but giving it to Usman, is kind of tough. Luckily, two judges saw it the same way and gave the right decision. Usman looked good at 185, but who really knows what's next for him? He's 36 with really bad knees, and we don't really know what he wants to do yet. When you start to hit your 30s in MMA, you start to tail off very slowly, thinking you could still compete, but maybe you really can't. It's a fine line between yes and no. But let's see what other people thought about it. So someone said, Khamzat looked a little rough in there. Got the win, but I was more impressed with Usman. That's a pretty fair assessment considering that Khamzat didn't look like a world beater out there. Because after all, this is Kamaru Usman we're talking about. This is still one of the greatest fighters on the planet currently. Usman looked good at 185. I wouldn't mind if he continued fighting at this weight class. Another person said, should have been a draw in my opinion. Round 1, Khamzat 10-8. Last 2 were Usman 10-9, just my opinion. You know, it's not out of the realm of possibility to give that last round to Usman, because remember, Khamzat got a lot of control time in that fight, but he didn't inflict a lot of damage. And in the majority of the striking exchanges in that second and third round, I'd give it to Usman. And this last person said, not gonna lie, Usman did great on 2 weeks notice. Yeah, he did excellently on 2 weeks notice. I'm very impressed with Kamaru Usman. Many people were saying that if it was 5 rounds, Usman would win this fight. And I think that's a fair statement, but I don't think Khamzat would have pushed the pace so much in that first round if he knew that he was fighting 5 rounds. And now the UFC wants to do Chimaev versus Strickland, and Sean is not happy about that. He doesn't think he deserves to be the one fighting for the title next. I'm more in the camp that it should be Dricus du Plessis versus Sean Strickland, but that's just my opinion. But on to that main event.
It is time for your main event.
Islam versus Volk 2. Whew. Islam Makhachev knocked out Alexander Volkanovski with a head kick. And I don't think anyone before the fight could have predicted that. And it was pretty tactical striking done on Islam's part. The fact that Islam is striking very tactically and can still grapple at the Dagestani level, I mean, come on, that's just insane. One of the interesting things about this high kick is that Demetrius Johnson actually predicted that this might happen. He did a really good breakdown before this fight that I highly recommend you guys watch to know exactly how Islam Makhachev set up that high kick. But in short, when you're fighting a shorter guy, your legs have a lot more reach to hit the head, because the distance at which you have to raise your kick is way shorter. And the way that Islam set up this kick was very similar to Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Ai. Islam attacked the body and legs multiple times, and when Volk was taking body kick, Islam went high. Let's see what the people have to say after the shock KO. Here a fan says, Volk fans are really acting like this wasn't short notice for Islam as well. This is a very fair argument, because you have to change an entire matchup from someone who's really tall and lanky like Charles Oliveira to someone who's pretty short like Volkanovski. Someone else says he should be pound for pound #1 right now. The thing is, I'm so inclined to put him at #1, but John Jones has literally never loss at light heavyweight and at heavyweight either. And I know this sounds stupid, but I would just put them tied at number 1. But overall, what does this mean for Islam in the lightweight division? A reporter asked Islam if he wanted to back up Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington at UFC 296 in December, and Islam was implying that he wanted to fight because he barely took any damage in this last one. However, Dana White said that he wants to rebook that Islam Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira fight. So it seems as though that he's staying at lightweight for now, but you never know with the UFC. And the bigger question, what does this mean for Islam's career? Because he could easily fight at welterweight. He has the frame to do it. Making 155 is really tough for him, so making 170 is going to be a breeze. He's so skilled in every aspect of MMA, I don't even know who can even stop him. Obviously, there's a chance for winning if Leon Colby fought him, but man, seeing him knock out Alexander Volkanovski with the pedigree and how good he is, at this point, it's going to take a really good stylistic matchup to beat Islam Makhachev. And on a more unfortunate note, what does this mean for Alexander Volkanovski? He revealed in his post-fight presser that he was pretty much bored at home and just really wanted to get some action in. For some fighters, it's good, but in the case for Volk, this was a mistake because he had to cut a lot of weight in a short amount of time, meaning that his chin wasn't as good, and that ultimately costed him. Because I've seen Volk eat way tougher shots at featherweight that connected extremely hard. This head kick barely clipped his head and rocked him. Getting KO'd like that in the UFC changes your whole career trajectory. I even prefaced in my last UFC 294 video that if he lost, he wouldn't get a chance to fight Islam again. And getting knocked out in the first round does not help your case at all. Also, Volk is 35 years old, and we all know that stat about fighters who are 35 plus in championship fights, which is getting pretty sad at this point. And another thing is that Volk wants to fight Ilia Topuria in January still. After getting knocked out like that, I don't know if that's a great idea. And with that knockout, Ilia knows Volk can be hurt. That gives a lot of confidence for the challenger. Hopefully we see him bounce back in January, but I hope he doesn't take that fight. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, hit subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more combat sports content. I'm Gabe Benchamal, and see you guys in the next one. Peace.